Hi,
Hi.
Mr. Ron.
Hello, everybody. We're just a few minutes early, so we're not going to start just yet. Um, Pam, are you in the parking lot? You are welcome to come in and sit at this table. Come on in. Jim, it's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Hopefully I'll be back next week.
One of
Been a
the
busy
challenges of
few
my
weeks.
age is that if I sit back here, I can't see you. If I sit up here, hi, Michelle, I look funny. Um, Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. So Josh and Kenneth are here. Madison is joining soon. Hey, Marie, Liz, somebody's patio corner.
It's like a floorboard to a car.
Oh, maybe. There's Madison, LPK, Jane. Hello, everybody. Madison, I really love that haircut.
Thank you so much.
It looks great.
Hi, everyone.
So, is Pam going to stay in her car or is she coming in?
She probably put on her shoes. She's coming in.
Oh, we'll wait for Pam.
No, she left her phone.
Hi, come on in.
Hey,
This is all just a ruse. We're going to have you answer all the questions. Just have a seat down here. So welcome to Let's Talk About It. The first half of this is going to be very much just me talking and answering questions and giving you as much information as I can possibly give you. The second half of this will be more interactive, and I'm sure it will be very clusterfuckery because, you know, everyone asking questions and trying to make sure we catch everybody. And I'm sure it won't be very smooth, but we'll give it our best shot and we'll see how this goes. So I'll tell you why I'm doing this for a couple reasons. I joined a Zoom or a Instagram live of another rescue a couple weeks ago. And they were sort of skirting around some issues. And I know that there's lots of questions out there from lots of people. And I just thought, you know what? We're so committed to transparency, and there's nothing we won't answer. Now, there's plenty we won't know the answer to. And there's lots of stuff we haven't figured out. And I'll answer you today about one thing, and I'll change my mind in a couple weeks. But there's nothing we're hiding from. You know, we're working on a visit from the Donkey Sanctuary in the UK. And they're going to be over on October 1st and 2nd. And it's a very big deal for us. So we're very excited. And Kenneth said to me, you should put together a list of things that you want us to get done before they get here. And I was like, I don't think we need to do anything. Like, I'm so proud of what we do, and I'm so proud of our approach, and we're so open to learning, and we're so not aware of our lack of perfection that I welcome anybody to come visit and point out things that we should do better. Like, that's our ego is not in this. And so all of these things led to it. And then over the years, there have been questions that people have come to me with. Sometimes they've been people who have come at me the wrong way. So some people have come at me aggressively, thinking that they're having their little gotcha moment, which any of you are considering this is the wrong way to approach me. And then there are people who just talk to other people about Ron's gotcha moments, and I just hear about it also the wrong way. But I don't think that the questions are invalid. I think they're perfectly fine questions, some of which I can explain to you and some of which I can't. And so we came up with this idea to have this Zoom. Just answer everyone's questions. We gave everyone an opportunity to submit questions anonymously so that if you're embarrassed about the questions, you can ask them. We have not prepared for the Zoom. Josh has all the questions in his hand. We haven't had a discussion about how we should answer or what questions are off limits, or we're just here to open up our hearts and minds and share what we can share with you. And Madison, so I've already told you that my eyes are bad, so I can't see the chat. So Madison is going to try to help me make sure I don't miss any questions. Because I do want everyone to feel heard. When it's over, it's over. And that's the other reason we decided to do it, because we do have about 300,000 supporters now, which is just the greatest gift ever. But I
Awesome.
can't give 300,000 people access to ask me questions. It's just not feasible. And so I'm going to try to consolidate them, and we will post this online so anybody can go back and look at it. So that's what we're doing here. For those of you that don't know, this is Josh to my left and Kenneth to my right and Pam over there in the corner. And they're going to help me answer some of the questions. I will answer most of them. And 45 minutes into this, you will say like, oh, Ron is really controlling and he doesn't let his team talk much. Those are comments that I hear about myself often, and it's 100% true. I am a very controlling person. You cannot launch a business without controlling. So it's not something that I apologize for. My team has a voice. They know exactly how much they mean to me, and they are all smarter about donkeys than I am. But I do control the brand and the conversation. So that's just that.
And
Josh,
then before we
any
get
more-
started, can everyone please just mute themselves? And then when you want to talk, you can unmute. It's at the bottom left side of your screen.
And I might be able to mute everybody in Madison, and then they can unmute as they go. Mute all. Oh, now I can't hear anybody. But anyway, you're muted. So when the time comes, so chat away. Madison is monitoring the chat. And then when the time comes, you can unmute. All right, Josh, let's go. I don't care what order.
All right, I'm just gonna go down from top to bottom. What happens if the donkey you sponsor gets adopted? Can you still receive information about your sponsored donkey if they get adopted?
So our sponsored donkey, so this is an evolution. What donkeys are available for sponsorship? Obviously, remember, we're brand new at this. And just yesterday, Madison and I had a meeting, and we are changing the sponsorable donkeys. So we have what we call permanent residents here. So donkeys that are going to be here forever for a variety of reasons, either because I love them and I refuse to say goodbye to them, or because they're old, or because they're sick, or because they require constant care. So we have about 20 permanent residents. So I made the decision when we launched the Guardian Club to have all of our permanent residents be sponsorable, and we did that. What happens is they keep dying. And then I keep going back and saying, I'm really sorry to tell you, but your donkey has died. Let's pick another donkey. And we'll talk a little bit about death and euthanasia as part of this conversation. 2 donkeys that were on that list have been adopted. And the way that happened is when we took them in, we were like, these donkeys aren't going to get where we need for them to get for adoption. So they're going to stay here. And then through the work of this team and the work of our volunteers, these donkeys have made remarkable turnarounds. And we are really careful about who we adopt to, but we find perfect homes for them and we let them go. So 2 donkeys, Chrissy and Winston, I've come back to you and said, you sponsored Winston, and he's been adopted. I'm sorry. Many of you, especially in the last 2 weeks, have heard from me that your donkeys have died. So just yesterday, we've taken most of our seniors off of the adoptable donkey list, or sponsorable donkey list. So we have so many: Goose Pickle Shadow, our first 3 donkeys, Felix and Whiz Kid, Viejo, Hoorah, Patches, our blind donkey. We have so many that are on there that are sponsorable, but we're going to stop getting sponsors of the Louis and the Normans and the Harrys, because as much as sweet as it is, it's heartbreaking when they die. So as far as your adoptable donkey getting follow-ups, we do an excessive amount of screening before we do an adoption. And until I believe with all of my heart that this new family can do a better job than we can, and that the donkeys will be happier and healthier and safer, I don't do it. So if they could do it just as good as we can or a little worse than we can, we don't adopt it. We only adopt the people who can do this better than we can do it. And because we do so much screening, we don't do any post follow-up. But because of the people we end up choosing, they constantly give us follow-up. So we get updates every day on our donkeys. Winston, who's one of the donkeys that was on the list and going up for adoption, Kenneth is going to do their site visit today. They are a lovely family. And they have a new ranch, and their only thing they wanted to do was provide a happy chapter for a couple seniors. And that's where Winston and Doug and
Angelique.
Angelique are going. So they will provide us updates, and I will share those with you. Madison does an excellent job of giving adoption follow-ups on social media. We just did a really sweet one on Rowdy. So yeah, I can't answer every question this long. We'll never get through it. Let's go.
How do donkeys show love besides calling for moms or babies or letting the herd know someone is in heat? Are there other vocalizations? And it's like 2 questions. What 3 things have you learned from donkeys since opening your doors?
You can talk about how donkeys show love.
All right. Well, I feel like it's different answers depending on whether they're showing love to people or to other donkeys. For people, it's generally lots of you guys have experienced it here. Just coming up and asking for your attention, coming up, nuzzling behind you, putting their butt towards you for a scratch. They make it pretty clear when they want a little attention and love from you. The donkey hug, also very famous at this point, popularized by Viejo.
Yeah.
I think that there's also a breathing that I notice when they like sort of, like if you think about me and when I'm working like this, and when you do this, you feel when they do that, and that they are relaxed and comfortable with you, and I think that's a sign of love. What 3 things have you learned from donkeys since opening your doors? Let's just each give one, then we'll move on.
They're very loving.
How to be patient.
What have I learned from donkeys?
How to take a hug.
How to take a hug. You know, that they are the importance of feet.
Yeah.
You know, when we first opened and we had issues, and you know, our vets were like, if we can't get this foot to work right, we're gonna have to put this donkey down. I didn't quite get the connection and the importance of 4 feet. But of course, when you weigh 700 pounds and that's how you get to food, your feet have to work. If your feet don't work, we have a big problem. So I think the importance of foot health is probably one of my biggest lessons.
What kind of training do volunteers receive?
So there are, so our volunteer program is hands-on donkey. So our volunteer program is open up your heart and give it to a donkey. So there's not much I can do to train people to do that, right? So we give a tour to every single visitor. No one comes here without the tour. And on the tour, we talk about where to stand, how to talk, how to approach. Everyone signs a liability waiver saying, I know I'm walking into a field of donkeys. If a donkey kicks me, I'm not going to sue you. But donkeys, once you learn to speak donkey, it's very easy to understand what they want from you, and when they want you to leave them alone, and when they want you to scratch their back. And so when I first started, I would bring in volunteers to scoop poop and do medicine, and because that's what everyone says they want to do, until they don't want to do it anymore. And then I'm in a lot of trouble. So in the very beginning, I had somebody, let's just say Pam, who was going to be my poop scooper. And then she's like, my grandkid has a soccer game. And I was like, well, poop still needs to come up. So that didn't really happen. I mean, it did, but not with Pam. And so I have hired people who do all of our feeding, medicating, poop scooping, and training. Our volunteer job is hands-on donkeys. So for those of you that have heard me talk about it, donkeys are very emotional creatures. They hold on to emotion, and they've had a rough life before they get here. So our volunteers teach these donkeys that humans will love them, not hurt them. Sometimes it's a quick process, and sometimes it's a 3-year process. We don't have time to do it. So there's 11 of us and 160 donkeys. We cannot invest in April the degree to which she needs emotional recovery. We can make sure that her feet are healthy and that she's fed twice a day and that she's not standing in poop and pee. But the volunteers love her back to health. And you know, that training happens very naturally.
When a donkey or other animal dies, how do you deal with the body? Is it buried on the property? Is it placed in a grave? And then it says, if a donkey dies at the vet's, do you bring the body home and bury it on the property, or do you let the vet dispose of the body?
Lots of questions about death. So when a donkey is euthanized, so we have had, I don't have these numbers in front of me, but let's say we've had 12 deaths since we've opened. 2 were natural deaths. 1, 2, 3 were natural deaths, and 9 were euthanasias. When we euthanize an animal, we are filling that animal with poison, and it needs to be buried 6 feet under the ground to protect any other wild animals. So we have a graveyard, and Gabriel on our team is responsible for digging graves and making sure we have enough graves. And we have a process that we go through. And when we euthanize an animal, it gets buried underground in an unmarked grave. When an animal dies at the hospital, we let them do research on it, and then we let them dispose of the body. We're actually going to talk about this more at the Donkey Welfare Symposium, but there's so little data out there about donkeys that if we can help make universities and vet students and doctors smarter about what goes on with donkeys, the difference between an donkey impaction and a horse impaction, for example, which is how Merle died, then that is a purpose well served. So we let UC Davis do necropsies and dispose of bodies.
What is the cost per month to care and feed for one donkey?
It's an impossible question to answer. We get asked it every day. Donkeys are really cheap and sturdy until they're not. And then donkeys are very expensive. All animals are that way.
And it says, do you have any other support other than charitable donations?
So our business strategy, and for those of you that joined last November, I had a financial Zoom with our supporters, and I will do one again in November, recapping the year as we go into the holiday season. So I lay out all of our finances, where our money comes from, how much has come from it, what our average donation is, what my 5-year plans are. But we have a diversified revenue model on purpose. So donations, you guys giving us money is 1/3 of our revenue. Foundations and grants is 1/3 of our revenue. And then government money, legislative money, finding different resources within our government that provide for ranch and nonprofit work is another. Now, they're not all developed, so we're still working on one of them. The other two are pretty healthy, but we have known that in order to be successful, 25 years from now, we need a diversified revenue model, and that's what we've built.
It says, basically, I think they're referring to donkeys. It says how this friend ends up for an auction and what happens to the poor donkey that is not selected in an auction.
So I'll let Kenneth talk about, so we are really committed to 2 donkey demographics, bonded pairs and seniors. And we have made the decision strategically and heart-wise that these are the 2 demographics that we focus on. And that's hard to do at an auction. I'll let Kenneth talk about bonded pairs at auctions.
Sure. Well, there are lots of rescues at the auction we've been going to, which is good for the donkeys there. Many of the rescues have eyes out for bonded pairs and donkeys that seem like they have some level of connection. So they have that avenue of help there. But aside from the rescues involved, the donkeys really just get run through individually most of the time. And so there's not a lot of care or consideration given to who's bonded to who. And so they get run through one at a time. And if they were really lucky, they'd get bought by the same person. But I think more likely if a rescue's not out there looking for them, probably they just end up going to different homes.
So, but I'm gonna answer the question better than Kenneth did. We go 2 days before the auction. So we go to find bonded pairs. And so what Kenneth and the auctions are always on a Sunday. Kenneth and I fly on a Friday. We're going in 3 weeks. All day Saturday, we're watching donkeys. And we don't take treats in because what we don't want is donkeys distracted and acting unusual because of us. We are watching donkeys to see who's bonded. They tell you who they're bonded with. They walk in unison. They stand guard over the other. They make it very obvious. And so we go and spend 1 full day in that shithole for the sole purpose of identifying bonded pairs. And then that gets very tricky the next day. So then they do run them through one by one. And in fact, we've been preparing for this coming auction. So we've been watching the auctions for the last 2 months. And it literally ruins my whole week. So they will run through a mom-baby pair and they will say, we're selling these separately. And usually what happens is the kill pen buys the mom because they sell for slaughter by the pound and the mom weighs more. And then a breeder or somebody who thinks they can take this baby and go flip it somewhere else buys the baby. So in the ring, fully conscious, they separate moms and babies. It's what happens. It makes me cry. It's horrible. We go to prevent that from happening. Now, I'll tell you what happens. They know that when Oscar's Place bids, we don't stop. So this has happened to us before, actually, and it'll be on one of our TV episodes, but we have a list. Kenneth and I have a list. It's a very chaotic auction. And we get Kenneth, and then Josh comes through. We're not leaving without Josh because we have identified that these two are bonded. We're not going to leave without Josh. And the people there know it. And all of a sudden, the auctioneer goes from 150 and 200 to 1250 and 1300. Because they know once we're bidding, we won't stop. Now, let me talk about the auction for a little bit. So we have a plan for September. I can't walk you through that plan and then post that plan online because there are people who watch us, but we have a plan for September that we're going to try. We rehearsed it and it's solid. It's stressful, but it's solid. Many people have said you need to let some donkeys go to show them that you won't buy every donkey. You need to teach those people a lesson. Pip is a perfect example. Pip cost us thousands of dollars. And I was loading our donkeys with pneumonia on a trailer to get them here. And Kenneth was in the ring bidding for Pip. It's a very stressful thing to do alone. Y'all have no idea how stressful this auction is. I've had somebody comment last time that I probably don't need to take Kenneth and that it's probably not that hard. And I can't tell you, it's one of the hardest things that I do. So I'm loading donkeys with pneumonia. Kenneth is bidding, and he cannot believe the price that they're asking for Pip. And so he texts me, and he's like, I just want to make sure you don't want me to stop. And busy, my hands full, and I texted, don't stop. He's on our list, don't stop. So he gets Pip for
It was $6,800.
$6,800. The most we've ever paid for an animal. The gavel comes down. He looks over, and it's Pip's owner who met Kenneth when Kenneth met Pip, who then came in the auction ring and was bidding against Kenneth to maximize the amount of money she took home. So she was totally playing him, right? So that's awful. And Kenneth was tempted. It had already happened. He didn't know that's what was happening when, until the gavel went down. And many people have said, you should have stuck it to her. Yeah. You should have stopped. So she was stuck with an animal and a $6,800 bill. And I get that temptation, but tell me what that does for Pip. And we run a Donkeys First organization. So I would love to stick it to her. Still, I fantasize about sticking it to her. But it's not what we do. We're here for Pip. We're not here to teach her a lesson. So we focus very hard on bonded pairs. It cost us money. At the end of the day, if this plan we have for September doesn't work, we're just going to pay a premium for our donkeys, right? What else are we supposed to do? Not go. And so we will share that with our supporters. We will raise enough money to cover it. We will pay a premium for our donkeys. Now, long-term, I have a plan to skip the auctions altogether. And I will get there. You see what I've done in 3 years. Give me another 3 years. I'll get there. In the meantime, so one of the most controversial questions that get asked, I don't know if it's in here or not, I'm just going to ask it for you, is how do you justify going to an auction when you make the supply and demand problem worse? Many people have come at me with this, and they are not wrong. When Oscar's Place or any rescue shows up at an auction and they know we pay top dollar, it becomes more tempting for people to bring their donkeys that they don't want to the auction. So our demand or our willingness does increase the dumping of donkeys. So that's a true statement. So but 2 years ago, when somebody first came at me very aggressively about it, I didn't really know what they were talking about. But then I've done the research to learn, and they're right. Us showing up encourages more donkeys to get dumped. So that is a true statement. Now, but the question isn't, how do you keep going? The question is, what is the alternative? So I have done a specific amount of research. So I have spoken to the owner of the auction that we go to and said directly, do you ship to slaughter? And do you buy donkeys out of the ring yourself to ship to slaughter? And he confirmed both, and he explained to me his business model. So I did that because I wanted to make sure that we weren't saying to supporters, help us save these animals from slaughter. And maybe they were going, maybe they weren't. I wanted to know for a fact that they were going. And I've confirmed that. So the way that economics work is that it takes 16 or 18 months to have any effect on supply and demand. So if we were to solve the problem of supply and demand, we would have to not go. And I would have to say to every other rescue, don't go help donkeys for 16 months or 18 months. And at some point, it's going to make its way back up the river to the ranchers who are dumping their donkeys that they don't want, that now that's no longer a profit center for them. That's how you fix the supply and demand problem. But for 18 months, every donkey gets slaughtered. So that's not okay with me. So I acknowledge that it's an issue, and I acknowledge that in some ways we can be contributing to the problem. I also acknowledge that there's not a better solution that anybody has shared with me, and that Viejo, my donkey, had I not gone and rescued him, would be dead. I know this. Phoebe and Rachel from May would not be alive if we didn't go. So yes, we are part of the problem. We're more part of the solution than part of the problem. And until we can fix it, it's what we're going to do. Sorry, I'm so preachy, but that's what it means to answer questions, I suppose.
So hi, Oscar's Place. Just wanted to say thank you for rescuing donkeys and wish I could be there.
Thank you.
Says, how do you ensure the donkey safety when so many how do you ensure the donkey safety? How do you ensure the donkey safety when so many volunteers are at Oscars and basically unsupervised? Do you think volunteers would benefit from more training, especially read donkey behavior, how to interact with donkeys before they're allowed to spend unsupervised time with the donkeys? Is Oscar's Place force-free? I hope so.
Is Oscar's Place force-free? I think that means, do we abuse our donkeys? And we don't. We are not force-free. Josh is not force-free. Viejo is force-free. Now, there are times where donkeys need to be restrained for their own health. We do that, but we do it very safely, not for these guys. These guys are full of scars. But if you haven't been here, it's a fair question, but we are donkeys first. Donkeys' safety and health and happiness is all we think about all day long, every day. And we treat our donkeys better than we treat our people. The volunteers need more training. I mean, they are not
Unsupervised.
They're not cleaning their feet.
We tell the donkeys not to sneak up on the volunteers
Yeah.
from behind.
Yeah, so they are loving. They're using their heart to help donkeys heal. And they're fine. Do you need more training, Pam?
I don't feel I do.
Yeah,
And
they're
so-
fine.
so-
We
We good.
Kimberly, I don't know if Kimberly's watching. If you are, hi, Kimberly. Kimberly was our very first volunteer 3.5 years ago. And, you know, when I talk about we make a lot of mistakes and learn our lessons, we make a lot of mistakes and we learn lessons. Unfortunately, sometimes other people have to pay the price, and Kimberly had to pay that price. So Kimberly wanted to walk a donkey. We put her out with, I think, Shadow. We're like, of course, it'll be so cute. Go walk Shadow. But I didn't know to tell her, if Shadow takes off running, drop the rope. I didn't say that. And so I look out to Shadow pulling Kimberly down the driveway, face first. Kimberly has road rash all over her body. And we're like, drop the rope. So we learned some lessons, and we do say very few volunteers walk donkeys. But we do say drop the rope, but no, not much training. And I'm okay with that.
How difficult is it to rescue a donkey?
I mean, the rescue, it's an emotional toll on us. You know, so I did a press interview yesterday, and the woman said, I know it's really hard what you do, but I know everyone says the good outweighs the bad. And I said, but does it? I don't think it does, if I'm being honest. The bad is really bad. The death, the hard work, the BS, the paperwork, the complaints, the heat, the mud, the babies that won't nurse, the euthanasia decisions. The bad is really bad, and the good is really good. The good doesn't outweigh the bad, but we have raised our hand to do this. This is our life's work. And taking on stuff that many people can't handle is our gift. So the good doesn't outweigh the bad. It's really hard what we do, but we do it because we want to.
It says, when can I visit a donkey that I've adopted? And what are the guidelines for visiting one's adopted donkey?
So Madison, who will wave right now. Madison coordinates all of our visitors, all of our volunteers, all of our donors. She's amazing. You set up your visit with her. The other thing, back to the point of volunteers, we only have volunteers here 4 days a week for a few hours. And I get asked every day to make exceptions to that, and I don't. Because we have work to do. So there's a lot of things we need to do when people are in our way, asking us questions, or even watching. So the way that we have to deworm a donkey sometimes involves getting them, holding their mouth open, squirting a dewormer, and playing with their tongue till they swallow. It's what we have to do. Now, this donkey is not hurt, and it's for the health of the donkey, but I don't need Pam watching us and being like, oh, be careful, which is a natural behavior, but volunteers are limited here. They are critical to what we do, but they are limited here.
Love everything you do and thank you. I've been wondering about Tony and his mom, one of your first students for Guardians. He had just been born. The mom looks very thin and frail, and either are they still there? Are they alive? Tell us more about Jack and Benji or others like that. It's so touching. And then finally, how's my viejo? And again, thank you for everything.
Super quick, because we're halfway through. Tony was one of our first adoptions where we sent a 4-pack. So we sent 2 moms and their 2 babies. The theory being the moms can live peacefully together and not have to deal with these little rambunctious devils, and the babies can play and grow up together, and basically is matching energy to energy. So Tony and Fiona went with Beatrice and Frida. And I got updates from them just recently. They're all doing great. It's something about them being frail. Nobody is frail when we send them out. So whatever was wrong with her, we had fixed. Jack and Benji are great. Jack and Benji have a pending adoption. Somebody has fallen in love with them and wants to provide a forever home for them, and won't be ready for 6 months. So we get the privilege of keeping them here for another 6 months. But having already found them a forever home, which is super sweet.
Someone asked, can you let me know how lemongrass is doing?
Lemongrass is great. Sorry, I'm gonna start going more rapid fire because there's so many questions. Lemongrass is great. She is our pushiest donkey. So in the spirit of learning lessons, our first group of donkeys born here, we turned into spoiled brats. We didn't know any better. First, we created a little pack of sugar addicts. All of them, they were just awful. We then took them off of sugar and dealt with 4 months of pouting. But they all think that they are the reason why Oscar's Place launched. And so Lemongrass is probably our most dangerous donkey, not because she's going to hurt you, but because you have to be sure-footed. She still thinks that she weighs 35 pounds. And when she wants your attention, she will run you over. So you got to know Lemongrass is coming, but she's awesome.
Someone asked, she also asked, do they make good pets?
Yeah, I mean, we only adopt out donkeys as pets. Donkeys are way more dog-like than horse-like. So if you haven't experienced a donkey, you think they're more like horses, and they're not. They're more like dogs, and they're amazing, and they make awesome pets.
I actually don't have any questions, as I believe you are super transparent as it is. You're doing great work.
Thanks, Lucy.
How do you know when donkeys are not pooping, as there are so many to keep track of?
The short answer is that there's nothing coming out of their butthole. They're not pooping.
They poop a lot.
I'm being sarcastic. It's a very good question. So, and we're having at the Donkey Welfare Symposium at UC Davis, we're having a whole day, the first day, dedicated to herd management, because herd management and individual donkey ownership are completely different things. And so when you have 2 donkeys in your backyard, you can know if they're pooping or not. When you have 160, you don't, and it is a critical thing. So we immediately, when we have a dull donkey, the first thing we do is take that donkey's temperature. And the second thing we do is put it into a stall with a clean floor and food. And it stays in the stall until we see a really healthy poop. The number of poop pictures in my phone is unbelievable. My phone is full of poop and vulva. So yeah, we stall them to make sure that they poop. And it's a really big deal. So yeah.
Lemongrass is not part of your adoption pool. Why is that? I'm thinking it's because she's so lovable, you don't want to adopt her out.
Yeah, so Lemongrass is one of our first donkeys. And she's bonded with permanent residents, so we made her a permanent resident. So we never split up bonded pairs, ever. Even if that means a massive inconvenience to us, which oftentimes it does. But it's a non-negotiable, and she's bonded with Shadow and Goose and Pickles and Hershey, and so they all stay.
Do you have a fire evacuation plan for the donkeys? How long would it take you to evacuate all of
We
you?
don't evacuate. We will shelter in place if there's a fire. Both CAL FIRE and Hopland Fire have both come to visit and have both designed plans for us, and they all include sheltering in place. We can't evacuate 160 animals, but we are so lucky. So there's 4 sides to our property. 2 sides are vineyards. So when you live in wine country, you want to be adjacent to a vineyard because they have the best irrigation systems on the planet, and no fire will cross a vineyard. The other 2 sides, we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in tree and blackberry and poison ivy maintenance. So we have excavated 40 acres of wild blackberry. We have raised the canopy of every single oak tree on property until CAL FIRE has said fire will not pass this. So we have created a fire barrier. We have massive water tanks. We have dug 2 ponds for floating pumps, and we will shelter in place. We will get every donkey in 1 pasture. So right now we have 6 pastures. All 6 pastures will go into 1, and we will spray them down as needed, but we'll shelter in place.
As a guardian, I have heard Ron talk about exciting expansion plans. I'm interested to know exactly what that means now that time has passed since the announcement. Will Oscar's place in Hopland be without Ron? There is only one Ron, and he is needed and loved in Hopland. And it says, where will the first expansion be and how will it
So
intertwine?
we are growing, and I am very intentionally, from the first business plan that I wrote, writing a plan for a sanctuary that will be around 50 years after I'm dead. So every decision we make is about longevity and sustainability. We don't do anything that would jeopardize this sustainability, and that's for the donkeys, not for me. So, our adoption contract is a legal agreement. It says that at any time that this no longer works for you, you send your donkeys back. In order for that to work, Oscar's place has to be here, doesn't it? Whether I'm here or not. So we have built a sustainable organization. I have a succession plan. Madison has helped me write it. There's 3 different succession plans for me. If I die in a car crash today, what happens? That is a job description that Phil Selway, my co-founder and the chairman of our board, will go out and recruit as an executive director. You don't need another CEO. I have been the CEO. You need a CEO to launch. Now that we're launched, you don't need another CEO. You need an executive director. So God forbid I die in a car crash. There's a job description written. They will bring in an executive director to run this place. The second succession plan is if I find out I have cancer and I've got a year to divest. What does that look like? That's different. That gives me a year to find I interview for my own replacement. I get the right person in, and we set this place up. And then the third is what happens when I retire. That succession plan is the most fun to plan for. So I have committed to going at this pace for 10 years. So I'm 55. So until I'm 65, I'm going to go at this pace. When I'm 65, from 65 to 68, I will back out and other people will run this place and I will be chairman of the board. And then at 68, I'm out of donkeys. Probably at 68, I'll be living in an RV down here in Viejo's pasture, to be honest. But I have a succession plan. It involves the people here. So, in my ideal world, somebody who has been taking care of our donkeys since launch will be in charge of animals, and Madison will be in charge of admin, and we'll have an admin executive director, and we'll have an animal executive director that work together and report to a board. We will also have a different shaped board. So our board right now is an advisory board. They are here to support me and give me advice. When the time comes, we're going to divest into 2 boards. One that is basically giving me money in exchange for a board seat, and the other is that is helping us make decisions. That will all evolve in the succession plan to an oversight board, which will, when there's 2 executive directors, will have to approve certain size expenses, certain expansion plans, so that there's some oversight for the people that take over from me. So there are expansion plans. I'll share them when I share them. These things take a really long time, and there are multiple succession plans in place.
You don't know who I am, but your emails and monthly updates are personalized and it makes me feel special. Thank you. Says you talked about the death roll during Sanctuary Sunday. Can you explain what it looks like and if that was the first time you saw it?
Josh saw our first death roll and can explain to you what a death roll looks like.
Death roll is basically a animal is laying on the ground and they're rolling back and forth. They don't really have control of their body anymore and their body is shutting down, so they're rolling to just because that's what they do when they're dying. It's pretty traumatizing to see. It can last a few minutes or a few hours. I've seen it once with my own eyes, and the second time I wasn't here, thankfully, because it's pretty traumatizing.
Yeah, so their bodies are shutting down. I've actually never seen a human body shut down, so I don't know if it's any different. But they're gasping for air, their limbs are tightening, rigor mortis is setting in. In the case of Amigo, he's slamming his face against the concrete. It is a horrible thing to see. And this is why we have the euthanasia policies that we do. We don't want our animals to go out like that. Now, Norman, Alex, it's a young kid that hasn't worked here very long. So I really think a lot about what that did to him. But Alex walked up on Norman doing the death roll. He then dove underneath him and with all of his might got Norman to stand up, and it sort of stopped that process. Our vet said, sure, you stopped it for a few minutes, but it's coming. That animal is dying. He got video before he did it. So we immediately got a vet out here. I was fully dressed to go to Hugo's wedding in a very sharp outfit. I mean, I looked good. The amount of work that I had to put into a 55-year-old white guy going to a Mexican wedding. Like I had committees and subcommittees and vision boards, and I looked good and I smelled good. And I took it all off and went out and met the vet, and we euthanized Norman because we didn't want him to go that way. So the death roll is horrible. Madison has texted me some things in the chat, so I just don't want to miss them. The donkeys behind us, we have two super senior donkeys, Jin and Barnaby. They live with Farley and keep Farley, one of our blind donkeys, company at night, and they have private quarters. During the day, they come to my backyard and they graze on green grass. We are very against donkeys eating green grass. But this is like letting a 92-year-old smoke a cigarette, like whatever, smoke. So we let them eat green grass. Also, they choke really easily. They have terrible teeth and they won't choke eating grass out of the ground. And so this is where they live. They are happy. This is the best final chapter they could possibly live. Pet insurance for donkeys. I don't know anything about pet insurance for donkeys. It might exist. Nobody in their right mind would give us pet insurance. Do donkeys know when they've been rescued? 100%. Lucille is such a perfect example. There were 3 donkeys in particular that Kenneth and I met in May and spent time with in Texas. The minute they got here and came off, they found us. Whether they recognize us by sight or smell or sound, I don't know. And now they immediately come up to us and they know they've been rescued. They also know who's here to give them pokes and prods and stick thermometers up their butt versus who's here to brush them. So if you're wearing a staff t-shirt, a lot of these donkeys will walk away from you because they're like, no, whatever you got coming, I don't want it. Do you do self-care? What are the differently with baby since lemongrass? I'm assuming self-care means for me, yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty good about it. Right now, it changes all the time. Right now, I work 30 days and I take 4 days off. That's my pattern. So I work 30, I'm off for 4. And I sleep really well and I don't have a family. So I was just talking to somebody today and I was like, if at 6 o'clock I came inside and I had other obligations, I don't know how I could do it. Josh has a whole family. He does this all day long and goes home and is a dad. I don't know how you do it. I come inside at 6 o'clock. I fall to my knees at the door. I walk halfway to the couch. I then crawl on my hands to the couch, and then I play Panda Pop on the couch. Yeah, I do self-care. Since lemongrass, we just don't spoil our donkeys as much. So you no longer see us being like, oh my God, it's so cute when you bite me. When you bite us, we turn away. We don't give them what they're after, and it teaches them to stop biting us. We do not give sugar ever to any babies without exception. And we do things to let them know that we're the boss. Alex is particularly skilled at this. He will halter babies on day 2, day 3, day 5, and just walk them around. So nothing's happening to them except they're realizing there is a device here and there is a boss here. And it's an important thing for them to learn. Do we have legacy literature? There are 2 sections of our website that we have just launched. Legacy giving. We're going to do, Madison's going to be sending out emails and social media posts about this over the next couple of weeks. We are launching a legacy circle. So for those of us that put us in their will and want to tell us, we're going to honor you by putting plaques on a fence. More to come about that. Lots of people don't want to tell us. It's fine too. We're super grateful, but all that information is on our site under legacy. And then just yesterday, or this morning actually, we have launched the ability to donate appreciated stocks. And so I'm not a rich person, so I didn't know how this works, but apparently if you made a ton of money on stocks, then you go to sell it, you have to pay a capital gains tax on that profit. So we now have an account with Merrill Lynch. You can donate fully appreciated stocks to us. You don't pay the capital gains tax, but we give you a receipt for the full value of the stock. So you get 2 tax incentives at once. You get the donation tax receipt for the full value, and you get to avoid capital gains. And then we get to cash in those stocks and apply them to our operating budget. So both of those things launched today. Do donkeys feel lost when one of their own has died? So we have seen the TikTok videos of donkeys mourning. That has not been our experience. When we say goodbye to a donkey, we leave it there and we let all the donkeys say goodbye to it. They're very uninterested. Dr. Carey tells us that they know that the donkey that they love, that their companion, isn't there. But they lose interest and they go to food pretty quickly. I think moms and babies are different. But we haven't experienced donkeys loss the way that TikTok tells us. Go ahead.
The only time I've ever seen donkeys low-key mourn is when Lily died and the rest of her little pack all went and saw her individually.
And yeah, they had lived together their whole life. That would make perfect sense.
You don't know who I am, but your emails and monthly updates
You did
are
that one already?
okay. You talked to okay. Was wondering what brought you to begin a donkey rescue.
So I'm going to take this because we are really running out of time. Madison, you'll keep me up on stuff in the thing. If you want to see what brought me to Donkey Rescue, go to our social media and watch the CBS interview. How do you learn, let alone remember all the names? We just have to. We have no option for record keeping other than to memorize these donkeys. And so we just have to. I couldn't tell you any of your names. I get Madison's name wrong 3 days a week, but I know these donkeys. How do you match donkeys with the doctors? Usually that happens here. So all adopters visit here. We don't match them remotely. And they find the right vibe and the right match and the right chemistry. And it's a pretty straightforward adoption. How do donkeys differ in their care from horses? They eat completely different food. So donkeys are not small horses. The Donkey Welfare Symposium at UC Davis, September 27, 28, 29, has been going on for 12 years. I've gone the last 2. It had kind of lost its way. So I wrote a proposal for UC Davis that said, I'm happy to work with you and take over parts of this that you're not great at that I am, which is really just event and organization and planning. Not as a donkey expert, but as an event person. And so Madison and I have put in over 120 man hours of work getting ready for this. It's going to be great. You can register at donkeyconference.com. And you can attend virtually. You don't have to come in person, although it'll be super fun in person. But the theme of it is donkeys are not small horses. So their stomach is different, their feet are different, their brain is different. How do you know when a donkey is happy? When the lower lip disengages and drool comes out, you've got a happy donkey. When is the volunteer trailer going to be ready? As soon as we raise $200,000. So the whole point of that was to get a budget. So I have a budget and I have schematics. Now we need funding. Maybe somebody gave Peaceful Valley a grant to open a museum. Maybe somebody will want to give us a grant for our volunteers. Or maybe the volunteers will all do a bunch of birthday fundraisers and over the course of the next 2 years raise enough money. Or maybe the TV show will be a huge hit and I'll have enough money to do it. I don't know, but we have the budget and we have the plans when we're ready. Do volunteers do foot care? No. We've tried. It's too dangerous and too many things could go wrong, so we took it away from them. Is it possible for anyone else to go to the auction if Ron goes? So we have a plan. The thing is, you have to remember about these auctions. Yes, they see me. It's a very small group. So somebody else doing Ron's bidding would last about 7 minutes before they knew what was happening. And we can't test theories and lose animals. So we are being very surgical about how we go about this for the animals. So we have a plan, but I will be there. I'll love to visit. Yep, Madison will set up your visit. Why don't you adopt a Washington State? So our agreement says when and if this agreement never longer works for you, you give us back our donkeys. You cannot rehome our donkeys. Our donkeys come back here. And the reason for that is even if your kids are like, yeah, I'll take the donkeys. They don't want them. Don't give your donkeys to your kids. Send your donkeys here. And to take donkeys back, we have to be within a 4-hour radius. Now we make exceptions all the time when it's perfect, but that's why we have a 4-hour purchase. Somebody saw a baby get stomped, and they want to know if that's common. We separate our pregnant moms from the boys. I've heard of that happening too, usually with uncastrated males, and all of our males are castrated, but we take no chances and we separate moms before they have a baby. Why do you support using donkeys as livestock guardians? Or why don't you support? So this is a new thing for me. I don't support donkeys as horse companions, and I don't support donkeys as livestock guardians. The reason is they eat different food. Donkeys eat different food than sheep, and donkeys eat different food than horses. So would they be good livestock guardians? For sure. And would they be good horse companions? For sure. But you would have to have two completely different sets of food care, hoof care, and medical care. So if you want 2 donkeys to keep your horse company, I'm down for that. But Kenneth has to go visit your property and see where you're going to put your donkeys during the spring when the grass is green and full of sugar. So it's their diet and the complications that makes for you that we don't send donkeys out of as livestock guardians. Wildfire evacuation plan. When manure is in a pack not being renewed, causing major fly problems. How do you know when you meet a donkey and an owner who thinks taking care of their donkey? Oh, if you see a donkey and you don't like the way it's being treated, you can buy that donkey and then surrender it to Oscar's Place. That's happened to us twice. You cannot ask us to go and rescue an animal. We are not animal control, and we don't confiscate animals for many, many reasons, most of which are legal. So, but 2 different people have come to me with this, and I've said, you buy the donkey, you retain ownership of it, and you surrender it to us, and they did. So they did a birthday fundraiser on their Facebook. They raised enough money. They said, how much money do you want for your donkey? The person didn't care about it, which is why they're neglecting it. And they bought it and it came here. So that's how you could do it. We never give donkeys water baths. It's funny, the Donkey Whisperer, who is another organization online that we follow, she bathes her donkeys, and I respect her and think she's smart. Ours roll in dirt. Like the minute you do that, they'd be full of mud. So we don't do it. I'm going to tell you about other organizations. So there are some hard-hitting questions that aren't on here, which part of me appreciates and part of me thinks, just ask me the hard-hitting questions. I don't care. Some people say to me, why don't you endorse or partner with other rescues? Why don't other rescues work better together? The rescue world is a very peculiar place, and there's lots of rescue on rescue hate. I see that. I don't feel it. I don't know anybody that hates us, and probably because I'm not paying that close of attention. But we want to, anybody that's helping donkeys is good in our book, even if we don't like you as a person, or even if we don't understand your business model. If you're helping donkeys, help them. And we will help you if we can. So we will share resources, we'll share information, we'll share learnings. What I won't do is endorse you publicly because I don't know anything about you. And if you have a scandal with Jeffrey Epstein in 3 years, you're not taking me down with you. I'm working too hard to build this, to have anybody that makes bad decisions take us the wrong direction. So I won't go public in my support or partnership with another rescue. It has nothing to do with them. Honestly, it just has to do with protecting us from what could happen in the future. How you continue to rescue if donations are your only source of, donations are not our only source of income. It is the reason we're doing a TV show, by the way. So yes, we're all handsome and we have these big personalities. That we're not going on TV because we need more people in our DMs. David Begnog came and did an episode for CBS Mornings. When that episode aired, we raised $200,000 in one day. That day, I realized the power of TV. Our average donation is $27. Now, I have somebody that gives me $100,000 a quarter. I have big donors, and I have lots of people who give me $5 a month. But our average donation is $27 a month. To pay for these donkeys, that's a lot of people. We're going to reach those people through TV. So TV is a way to reach mass people, to make them fall in love with donkeys, and to raise money for Oscar's Place, and to tell them that donkeys can't eat green grass. How you rescue humans? I love that, Ron. Why do you pick on Josh so much? I know nothing from afar. Maybe he's a jerk, or maybe he's a true introvert who brings something to the table that super social and extroverted powerhouses don't. Josh, why do I pick on you so much?
Ron gives friendly banter if he likes you. So if he didn't give me a hard time, I know he didn't like me. Simple.
I love Josh with all of my heart. If I hurt Josh's feelings, I would be devastated. And I do an awful lot of work to make sure that the people that work here are happy and feel supported and have joy in their job and get a return and are protected, and that their hearts are okay, and that their minds are okay, and that their bodies are okay. The amount of time I spend thinking about my team is exhausting, and it's because I love them. I also flip them off when I'm in a mood. And I've never hugged Josh in my life. What would you do if I walked up to you and hugged you?
I might hug you in your picture for your birthday.
I love Josh, and if I give him a hard time, it's because I love him. How many donkeys do you have right now? We have 160 donkeys. Our operating budget is 2.25 million. So if you want to calculate the cost of a donkey, you can do that. Now that includes payroll. Payroll and feed are my two biggest costs. So if you have a donkey at your house, you don't have to pay somebody to take care of them. So it's all tricky, but we have 160, Madison, 162. Madison's the official
160.
keeper of our number.
Yeah, Smokey and Maxwell came back.
Smokey and Maxwell came back. Do donkeys feel lost? We have a wall of donkeys that have been adopted. What about the wall? So Liz just came to me about this yesterday. How do we honor donkeys that have died? We haven't had very many deaths. And I don't know why I made the decision to do unmarked graves. It was years ago that I did it. But I did it. I'm not opposed to a wall of death. Let me rephrase that. I'm not opposed to a wall of memory. But I'm not really sure where we do it. It's a sweet thing. It's a sweet thing to think through. Like, we want to remember Norman. If you're on our email list or our social media, we just posted something very cool about Norman and a new relationship with an artist and a gorgeous painting of Norman and Harry. Liz, we will figure something out soon on how to honor our donkeys that have left us. How do donkeys stay cool? Donkeys are desert animals. So one of the reasons donkeys are so different from horses is because of evolution. 4,000 years ago, donkeys evolved from the desert and horses evolved from the meadow. They evolved from different places, so their bodies are different and they handle things different. Our donkeys are fine with this heat. In fact, most of them lay down in the direct sunlight and take a nap. Horses are not okay with this heat. Conversely, our donkeys hate the winter. They hate to be wet. They hate the rain, and horses will just stand out in the rain. So their bodies are different, but they're fine with the heat. We do have an Amazon wish list. Supporters can volunteer for a week. Supporters cannot stay here. So yes, you can volunteer for a week. Madison can give you a list of local hotels. We'd love to have you, but you can't stay here. I did a press interview yesterday talking about the importance of boundaries. And I know some people think I'm an asshole, or some people think I'm rigid, but this is a huge organization with a huge number of volunteers and a huge number of supporters and a large team. And if I don't have boundaries, and if I keep making exceptions, it's going to be a total cluster around here, and we're not going to know which way is up. So you can't stay here. I have lots of people. In fact, just yesterday, I had somebody say, if you will provide room and board, I will come volunteer for you. And I was like, well, then that's not volunteering, is it? That is a paid position. Yeah. What do donkeys eat every day? Do they eat treats? We feed a 50-50 mix of orchard grass hay and wheat and barley straw. The barley straw is for bedding for most livestock. It's perfectly acceptable food for donkeys. We did not make this up. This comes from the Donkey Sanctuary in the UK. And we don't feed treats. If you're on medicine that we can't get you to take, we will put that medicine in a treat. Or if we need to move you from one pasture to another and you're a little bit disagreeable, we will lure you with the treat. But we don't feed treats, and our volunteers never feed treats. If our volunteers want to manipulate a donkey, they can pull some grass out of the ground and hold the grass up. they can't feed them treats. Don't have a question, just want to say thank you. I love donkeys, but never owned one. What are the basics? Email Madison about the basics of donkey care. We have a 165-page donkey ownership manual that we donate to the Donkey Sanctuary in the UK. They wrote it. We give them a big donation every year. We then download it and share it with anybody who wants it. So it's full of great information. We still refer to it every day. We made it through 7 pages of question. Let me see what else Madison has texted me. Do you feel adoption who begin to abuse? How do you deal with the adoption people who begin to abuse their donkeys? If there is any chance that an adopter would abuse a donkey, we would never in a million years adopt them. Okay, so we have 2 minutes. I think Madison has kept us up on the chats. I'm happy if all of this jibber jabber has prompted a question, you can unmute and ask. I'm even happy to go at this for a few minutes. These two probably have to get to work, but I'm just avoiding payroll, so. No questions? So please don't come to me with any other questions for a year. We'll do this again in a year. I'm totally kidding. But I did hope to get a lot of it out. Go, I see a hand.
Yeah, what are the treats? What are treats?
So carrots and apples are very common donkey treats. There's also like horse cookies. Hugo spends the first hour of his day carving out of carrots and inserting pills. So we use carrots for pill delivery. They love carrots and donkeys. Deborah, yeah, I see you, Deborah. Go ahead.
Hi, fencing. If one was looking at adopting, do donkeys respect electric fencing? Because I have electric fence around a pond. The rest is totally fenced.
So I think they're smart and they'll figure it out. I'm opposed to it just because I'm sensitive. And if you wouldn't let your kids walk into an electric fence to learn a lesson, I don't think you should let your donkeys walk into an electric fence, but that's just me. Go ahead, Kenneth.
I've heard mixed reports. I've heard some people that have electric fencing, the donkeys test it once or twice and then respect it pretty quickly. I've heard some people that can't get the electric fencing hot enough and the donkeys are like, the shock isn't that bad. I'm just going to push right through it.
Yeah, donkeys are badasses. We also have an adopter who said their donkey jumps over it.
There's just a pond on the other side, but I try and keep them out of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not being judgy about it. I think
No, I just didn't know.
it's not as secure. It's the same. I've just learned recently about barbed wire. Like actually barbed wire is not the devil. But anyway, we don't have any of that here. We have 6 foot tall, no climb and 4x4 cedar posts. Like we put in excessive fencing, but.
And then someone like Ken would come and inspect the place.
Yeah,
If
so
Ken was interested in adopting.
Kenneth will do a site visit for every adoption. Some people, like the people who adopted Jack and Benji, ask him to come before they build so that they build what they should build. Some people come and Kenneth isn't coming to say like, oh, your barn should be painted. This is not an aesthetic visit. Donkeys should eat relatively low to the ground. So he'll talk to you about your feeder positioning, talk to you about keeping your waters clean. He'll just answer questions. The biggest question we have is how do we keep our donkeys off of the acreage when the grass is green? And that involves the building of paddocks. It's pretty inconvenient, to be honest. But yes, Kenneth will help you.
And how do you make an appointment to come visit your site?
Madison. Email Madison. Please do not DM her. We have 300,000 followers on Facebook, and people get really upset when we don't get back to them. But it's just impossible. Half of those are marriage proposals for Kenneth. It's just impossible to keep up. But email us. We are committed to answering every single email. No one has ever emailed us and not heard from us. That is not easy, particularly for Madison. But I have heard repeatedly that rescues don't get back to people, and it's something we've committed to do. Hey, Marie, I see your hand up.
Thank you.
You can go if you want, or hang out, whatever you want.
It's age.
Hi, guys. I really appreciate these videos and the interaction. Anyway, my question for you is, working with these animals, has it changed how or what you eat? Because I know sometimes this has an effect on people. So I was just curious.
It's a tricky question. So, it has made me more thoughtful. It has not changed how I eat. But it has made me more thoughtful, and I don't eat donkey ever. Next question,
Hi, can I ask a question?
please.
Ron, this is Carrie, and I talked to Madison a lot before I picked my donkeys. And I first of all, I just have to say that you guys have to be the most wonderful organization, and I wish I could come to Oscar's place and hug my donkeys. But I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm just so honored to be a part of Oscar's place. I know that Beatrice and Sylvia's baby is Beatrice and her baby gonna stay?
Yeah.
I
So
think
first of
and
all,
so-
do we have your donkeys? I missed the first part of what you said.
Well, I sponsor
Oh, got it. I thought
I
you had
sponsor-
surrendered some donkeys, and I was going to give you an update. So thank
no,
you. For
I sponsor Beatrice and Sylvia, and then the guy who lives with the blind donkey
Farley.
his name.
No, don't
Farley.
have more
Yep.
donkeys.
And I might add some more, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to know where they're gonna stay. Because those are the mammoth donkeys, right? Sylvia and Beatrice.
Yep. So first of all, thank you for the compliment and thank you for your support. Sylvia is a permanent resident because Sylvia has debilitating laminitis. That for those of you that are following, when she had her baby, she had a retained placenta from several babies ago. And every single hour we thought she was going to die. And maybe the hardest we've ever worked to help an animal recover. And she recovered. She's probably at about 75% today. I don't know that she'll ever be at 100, but she's at a place where I think she's worth keeping, and she has got a good life. But I don't trust that anybody will do the level of care that we're going to do for Sylvia. And then because of that, because we never split up bonded pairs ever, her sister Beatrice and both of their children, Kate and Babe, will all be permanent residents. So, if Sylvia dies one day, could Beatrice and the two girls go somewhere? Maybe. But as long as Sylvia is alive, those four are permanent residents. And she's not dying anytime soon. She's in great shape.
Would they be up for sponsorship too then, the babies?
It's an interesting question, Madison. We haven't really talked about putting babies on there. We'll take that into consideration. There's no reason really they shouldn't be. So we'll take that into consideration. And thank you for sponsoring so many donkeys. Madison, I see 86 comments. Have I kept up with most of these questions?
Yes, you got at least all of them, I think. But the last one from Amber, the expansion plan. Where will you expand and how will Ron manage more than one Oscar's place? Will he relocate?
Oh, well, I haven't figured all that out yet. So we're working on a local expansion. So my dream is to have a mountain with no people and no structures that donkeys can go live on that's how donkeys are meant to live. So our donkeys want to live that way. And then to have a facility full of people and volunteers and facilities and medical rooms and hand feeding, full of all of that. I would love to, as we continue to acquire donkeys over time, donkeys that don't want to be messed with, just want to be left alone, I'd like to have somebody to send them. And we have plenty of those here. And then donkeys that want or need daily intervention to keep them here. So our first expansion will hopefully be that. And if it's local, I'm going to stay here. Then we plan to expand near Texas as part of my plan to figure out the adoption system, probably in Oklahoma because it's much cheaper. And I don't think I'd be moving to Oklahoma. And then we want an East Coast, probably in Virginia. So those are all very loose at the moment. But those are our plans. And, let me talk about two things. Let me talk about three things. Y'all can go whenever you want. I'm surprised I'm going late, but this is kind of fun for me, actually. And it allows me to say next week, you missed the Zoom. Don't ask me any questions. If I was coming on here and wanting to ask Ron some tough questions, I would say, how do you justify living in such a big, beautiful house? I think that's a very fair question. I live in a big, beautiful house. So those of you that know the story of this place know that somebody was put here to do what I did and they didn't do it. What they did was they built a big, beautiful house. There wasn't an animal or a fence in sight. And so there was a big disagreement between the person that did that and how he managed the funds and the person who owned the property. That relationship fell apart and that person moved to Mexico. I then came here, still employed by media, or still in the media world, simply to live here until the house sold. I made a 3-month commitment to come. My whole life changed. If you've seen the CBS article, you know sort of what happened. And then the owner of this property put this property in a foundation called the Selway Family Foundation. And then this year, once I got through 3 years of proving that I could do it, the ownership of this house and the ownership of this land was all put in the Oscars Place name. So that in the world of succession planning, we're never going to lose these facilities. So this house was here and donated. I didn't want to junk it up so nobody judged me for living in a nice house. But Oscars Place donors did not pay for this house. And it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. I use it as a place to change clothes. But I do live in a nice house, and that's why. I would also say, is it true? The rumor is that you have a barbershop in your house. I do. I have built a barbershop. And working here, one of the benefits is you get free haircuts. I'm very unapologetic about this. It seems like a bougie thing to do. I'm going to tell you why I did it. In the country, well, in rural, it's not like a city. When you live in LA or New York, you walk into a barbershop and you get your hair cut. In the country, you need an appointment. And sometimes it takes 2 weeks to get those appointments. And you get them when you get them. So Gabriel, who's probably the vainest of us all, I'm saying that because today's his day off. Gabriel would be gone 2 hours to get his haircut on a Tuesday. Josh, who has a kid, a whole kid, and a whole significant other at home, he can't get his haircut on Saturdays and Sundays. So he would go get his haircut and he'd be gone for an hour and a half. Kenneth never cut his hair until I made him. But so guys were gone and I needed them. So I was like, and also even to get my own haircut. So we're on TV. I'm not going to look shabby on TV. Shabby chic is not my look. So I was making my appointment and gone for 2 hours to get my haircut. And I was sitting there one day getting my haircut, frustrated I wasn't at the ranch. And I was like, how much could this chair and this mirror cost? So I went home and I bought a chair, I bought a barber chair, and I bought a mirror, and I ran an ad and I found a barber. And every other Tuesday, a barber comes here and cuts everyone's hair. And so, yes, we have a barber shop. We don't get manicures or massages. We get our hair cut. Why did I tell you all of that? Because you asked a question about the house.
It just saves time. The time thing, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, Madison, people want an update on the TV show.
I'm going to get going on my site
Kenneth.
visit.
Kenneth has a very long drive. He got a late start so that he could be a part of this. So thank you, Kenneth. The TV show is fine. I'll tell you what's happening is that Hollywood, for anybody following the news, has fallen apart. And massive consolidations, thousands of people losing their job, nobody knowing the secret to success, no one being willing to make big, bold decisions, everyone wanting loud TV where people are sleeping with each other and fighting. It's just a slow, slow process. So we have funding, we have distribution, we have a plan. It is just a glacial pace. So I'm not cut out for this, but it's going to happen and it's going to change all of our lives and it's going to change the future of our organization. It's been part of my strategy from the beginning, but it is really fucking slow. Sorry, it is very slow. I know some of you really don't like me cussing, but I try. Ooh, I try. What other hard-hitting questions did nobody ask me?
I don't know. Because I feel like you've been pretty transparent since the beginning. So like if they followed you from the beginning, everybody's question should have been.
Yeah, if you don't feel transparency from this, we have done something wrong.
Mr. Ron, this is Carrie again, and I just wanted to say one of the things, I have another blind friend and her name is Sharon, and I was looking at, because when the videos come out, I try to listen to them. And Mom actually saw the mammoth donkeys on the day of the fundraiser, because I was the video. I said, look, Mom, and she goes, man, they're big. But my friend and I, we really appreciate when you tell us what you see. And you're really good about that. I get a visual in my head when you do the videos and you tell us what's happening with the donkeys. And we hear you hug the donkeys and kiss the donkeys. And
Yeah.
you are the reason why I came to Oscar's Place, because when I did a lot of looking and research, and I live on a very fixed income and I don't have a lot of money, but I can I'm a Christian, and the Bible says what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And your heart for donkeys, you don't have to see it. You don't have to see the love that you have for the donkeys. And that impresses me. And even my brother now is following Oscar's Place.
That's
He
amazing.
wasn't.
In the world of descriptions, let me make sure you know just how handsome I am. So if I haven't explained it, I have chiseled jaws. I have dark brown hair. Josh is leaving me. I really appreciate that compliment. I try very hard to explain what we're doing. I'm not doing it specifically for people who can't see, but I'd be very happy to. And so I would also say that if you have suggestions on our video or our closed captioning, if from a technology point of view, there's things that we can do to be more accessible for blind people, please just shoot us an email and let us know. We are happy to be better in any way
All you
that
have to do is just describe, just tell us visual things. That's it. Sometimes the videos cut out, and that frustrates me because it stops and then I have to start it back. But my problem is too, I know you only do the Oscar's Place things on half of it's on the other, but the problem is blind people can't get on there. I can get on Facebook, but I can't even sign in. It doesn't work. The other, whatever that is, the other one.
Instagram, yeah. I'm sorry that
I
they're not
can't-
more user friendly. We do have a lot of followers on Instagram, so I'm committed to doing both. But I'm super happy we get to engage with you on Facebook. Plans for merch. We are launching new merch in the fall, so stay tuned. We have a new artist. Any of you that knew Ed, our prior artist, and Ed died last year, and we took a break from art-related merch to sort of mourn Ed and all that he did to help us get started. And a lot of his merch is still available, both his prints and his cards. But we have a new relationship with a new artist who I absolutely love. And we're going to be launching for Giving Tuesday for our telethon. Our next telethon is on Giving Tuesday. During that telethon, we're going to launch 2 calendars. So we're going to do the same photographer that did this year's calendar is doing next year's calendar. So we're going to have one calendar that is people and donkeys. Then we're going to have one calendar that is artwork of donkeys, just artwork, no people. So you have your choice. We're going to launch new coffee mugs, note cards, holiday cards.
Shirts?
Is that it? Okay, that's our merch plan. Meredith has a question. Meredith?
Well, okay. First of all, I want to say I'm really grateful to The Guardian when I first read about you when you were just getting started. That was great. And I want to thank you for putting out such comprehensive, Zoom calls and videos and stuff to show us what you're doing. I mean, it's really, really great. I feel like I'm a part of this,
Well, you are a part of it, and we're doing it with money. So yeah, we have to show, I can't imagine doing it any other way, but
you do. I mean, you're just so honest and, open about everything that you do. I do kind of have a hard question. Do the donkeys at the slaughter, do they get shipped to China? Because there's that horrible, thing that's going on with donkey skin or something they're using.
Yeah, that's 100% right. So donkeys are in trouble across the world because of a Chinese herb called Yizhao. Yizhao is an herb with no proven benefits, just like our ginseng or our, melatonin or whatever. But they have a show like the Kardashians in China. They have a pop culture show. And on that show, the participants say, we are young and beautiful because we take Yizhao. And that plug has created worldwide demand that has skyrocketed. And we're slaughtering between $4 and $5 million a year, or 4 to 5 million donkeys a year to keep up with the demand of Izhao. So yes, they get slaughtered in Mexico and then shipped to China.
Okay.
Couple things here. So I am very sensitive to Asian hate. So we do worse things in the US to animals. Just want to say that. So it does suck. And the plight of the donkey is Chinese related. The plight of making sure your shampoo doesn't burn your eyeballs is something we do to beagles. So animal testing and animal abuse is terrible. But yes, the donkey's plight is for Izhao. There is, I'll just share a little bit with you about that. Honestly, this has gone so much longer than I thought. And if you got to go, I won't take offense. I have a meeting at 10:30, so the maximum time we have left is 12 minutes. There are organizations like the Donkey Sanctuary in the UK who are doing massive amounts of legislative work around Izhao. I don't have the funding or the resources to do it, so I let them do it. I'll tell you how I can help them. I can make people care. So when I'm on TV, 17 million people will have exposure to donkeys. 17 million people will be like, I had no idea how amazing donkeys were. And we can say on our TV show, donkeys are in trouble. Go support the Donkey Sanctuary. They're doing something about Izhao. So I can't do that, but I can make people care. The other thing I can do is, because I know how vain people are, is I can say I took Izhao for a month and I got fat and I got pimples all over my face. I promise you, if word gets out that Izhao might make you fat, people will stop taking it. So I might do a whole campaign around the disadvantages of taking Izhao, talk about fake news, but why not? So yeah, that's my theories on Izhao.
Okay, Ron, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough.
You're very welcome. I'm very happy to do it. I just had my first Zoom this morning was at 6:30 in the morning. And it was with our production company. And one of our investors in the TV show is saying, where we're kind of struggling at the moment is that it's great what you're doing for donkeys, but we really want to fund things that have impact on people. And so I spent an hour explaining to how we got into this to save donkeys, but the impact that we have on people is also immeasurable. And so, you know, you coming on and saying that and wiping tears from your face is just validation that I am focused on the donkeys, but other people are also feeling the impact of the work that we do, and it means the world to me. So thank you.
I would never have known anything about this if it hadn't been for the David Begnaud. That's why I'm so focused on the TV. You will bring in so much money.
Yeah.
Just God bless you, Ron.
Thank you. Please call your senators. Yeah, y'all can get involved in legal work, legislative work if you want. I don't have time. Anything else? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's name, but Deborah, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have one more question. Having lost my horses last year, I'm really thinking about adopting some donkeys.
Yep.
Well, the symposium, I'm going to come and visit you guys. I'll make an appointment with Madison because I really want to know everything I need to know. Because I know what it is to care for critters. But the symposium, going to that for the 3 days, will that really give me a really solid background on feed, hoof care, shoeing, or not shoeing, but
I mean, it will this year. Madison is smirking because the amount of work that we've done to make sure that this symposium is impactful is unbelievable.
Okay.
So we are scrutinizing every presentation, every presenter, every sentence. I'm working as MC because I need somebody who can stop ridiculous questions and encourage thoughtful questions. We need somebody who can keep it going. And anyway, it's going to be great. It's also available remotely. You know, on top of that, you'll develop a community of people. You know, there's a whole Facebook group that Madison is creating of people from the Donkey Symposium, where they stay in touch all year round. Part of what we're going to announce at the Donkey Welfare Symposium. So we bought the URL donkeyconference.com, and we are committed to quarterly education opportunities for donkey owners or people who love donkeys. We call them donkey champions. So it's going to start with the Donkey Welfare Symposium in September, but then before the end of the year, we will have another webinar only this is where we will ask the Donkey Sanctuary to come and talk to us about Izhao. We'll have an Izhao seminar. So we'll have ongoing training and education opportunities throughout the year in
Perfect,
all of our spare time.
perfect. Well, I'm close to UC Davis, so
Great.
it's easy.
Oh, yeah. You should come register because I hope to God we sell out soon. But
Okay.
donkeyconference.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else? It was way more pleasurable to spend time with you guys than I thought it would be. I kind of thought I was going to be nervous, and so it was fun answering all your questions. We will post this online to direct people who have questions over the next 12 months. And yeah, thank you for supporting it. The only reason we can do this is because y'all are all willing to jump on a Zoom and support us for an hour and 20 minutes. We can't do this without you. It'd be physically impossible. So thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
So much. Beautiful, wonderful, wonderful.